From JA to UK to LA and everywhere else. Now this is a podcast strictly influenced by Jamaican music, brought to you by Eric Kohler and Junor Francis. Well, if you're driving in your car or you're sitting home alone, the Junior entertain you on his microphone. History of LA Ska. Yeah, hear stories from a guest while we all have a blast. From LA to Jamaica, it's in the podcast. The history of LA Ska. Of LA Ska, yeah. It's the history. Yes, it is. Of LA Ska. History of LA Ska, yeah. It's the history. Yes, it is. Of LA Ska. Of LA Ska. It's the history of LA Ska. One more time, yeah. It's the history of LA Ska.
Welcome to the History of LA Ska one-on-one sessions. I'm your host, Junor Francis, alongside our producer and my good friend here, Eric Kohler. Now, this series celebrates the ska, rocksteady, and vintage reggae scenes in Southern California and beyond through insightful conversations with legend and modern-day talent, including those behind the scene. And a lot of people are really and truly involved these days, so we want to thank them. So whether you listen to this podcast series or YouTube or wherever else, we want to thank you abundantly and everlastingly. And please remember to subscribe. Everyone should subscribe. It's very important. And tell all your friends. On this last episode of 2024, what a year it has been. My goodness. We welcome Jeremiah Benzion and Spanky Kingston of Brotheration Records. Not only are they partners in this musical endeavor, interestingly enough, they are big supporters in front and behind the scene, and they just happen to be cousins. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
That is it.
Yes,
That
Our
is
fathers.
I suppose friends from childhood, perhaps, and about kindergarten.
Yep. I mean,
Probably
we have
kindergarten.
pictures of us. I mean, when we were born. So
Yeah.
I'm 16 months. I think
Yeah.
maybe is it 16 months or no? I think it's less than that. That's my boys. I think me and you were like 7 months.
You're right.
Yeah,
Right.
so-
Apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 7 months apart. So yeah, I came first, and I was the older statesman, and then
So how is the family tree? You related by blood through mother, father,
father.
father.
Okay.
Yeah, our fathers are brothers.
Nice.
Oh, that close.
Yeah, first cousin.
Oh, yeah.
Spanky, welcome back to the podcast.
No stranger.
Jeremiah,
Thank you.
welcome. We've known the two of you from the scene for quite a while, and we're happy to have you both. So welcome. As Junior mentioned, final episode of 2024. It was important for us to end this year with on a local SoCal level, and clearly it gets doesn't get a whole lot more SoCal based behind and in front of the scenes than the two of you guys. So we're excited to talk with you about Brotheration Records, but also about both of your careers.
That's what I call end with a bang.
That's right. Indeed.
There
Thank
we
you,
go.
Junior.
So
Nice.
Brotheration is a tongue twister. Why, sir? I mean,
You know,
You have to take Spanky for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I came up with the name. We were, gosh, what was it? It's almost maybe 8 years ago that we did the session with Vernon, and we recorded here. We brought Vernon out. Jeremiah came out, and he wasn't living here at the time. He came out, worked with Brian Dixon and a bunch of local musicians, because LA, we have the musicians, we have the guys that have dedicated
Best.
themselves to the preservation of this
Some of the
this
best.
thing we do. So no better place to do that. But upon taking these guys to the airport, we were all at the airport, and there's a picture that I did that day, and we all three kind of put our hands on top of each other, and I said, "This is a brotheration."
all three meaning.
Just that we were brothers,
So
And
who else
so it
was there with you? You said three.
There was Vernon Maytone
Okay.
and Jeremiah and myself, and I was returning them to the airport to go home. And before we all parted ways, we all kind of had a three-way handshake and said, "This is a brotheration."
Yes.
And from then on, it was just like, okay, that's that was kind of a historic little moment, and we kept it that, and I think it's appropriate. It is a little bit of a tongue twister, and but the reason kind of behind the name and the thought process is that we want to collaborate. We want to work with our brothers and sisters and not only here but around the world, and collaborate on this project so that we can keep one further this music. We feel a kinship to this music. I felt a bit of a responsibility to this music, that if people don't do this, it will go away. Mm-hmm. And we've seen ebbs and flows with ska. We've seen ebbs and flows with reggae has been a little bit more steady, over the years, but even it has its ebbs and flows.
Sure.
But if we have this brotheration, this coming together, we can really do special things. And so, we put that album together. Jeremiah was totally, a lot of putting that together. He wrote a lot of that. He worked with Vernon. He set that all up, and he did a ton on that. And just from that session, that's where the kind of the idea sprang from. And we've since Jeremiah's been back here in the States, we can now reunite in music, because we played, we've been friends and cousins our whole life. I mean, if I wasn't at his house, he was at my house, so vice versa. We literally talk every single day. We're best friends. So this is he's my brother. There's nobody else in the world I would rather do this with than him.
Yeah.
And so we started working on putting music out, and we just said, let's start laying it out.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are.
Yeah. And we're going to dive deeper into Brotheration in just a second, but let's actually pause on the Brotheration side. So aside from your releases, what would you two say were some of the highlights of 2024 for you personally or professionally? Again, if you can put aside the label, because we want to dive deeper on that, but outside of that, what was the year like for you guys?
Good, Joe.
I think that certainly the Greg Lee show, that was a highlight for me. And I've been playing with Ocean 11 now since we came back together. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like that was one of the most powerful and historic moments in the LA Ska scene. Yeah. I mean, I had been good friends with Greg since 1990. I do it, and that was just definitely a powerful moment, and it was for both sadness and the feeling of everybody that came together for the show. Yeah. I just thought that was just amazing, something I'll remember for the rest of my life. Not anything I ever had expected to play or ever wanted to play.
Yeah.
Right. But wow, that was really special as far as in music. Secondly, and I would say like a far second behind, would be just we set a goal for ourselves to try to release music and work with people. And I don't want to get into the label side of it, but keeping up with developing our music production abilities, both inside of equipment and time and other professional things. And that would be that's for me for 2024.
No, that's another great accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Spanky, what about you?
Well, just being a family man, being able to be blind. My daughter is a flight attendant, so I'm able to fly around for free. And so that is great.
That's pretty sweet.
It's funny. She talked about being a lawyer, and I was like, yeah, we're behind you, whatever. And then she said, but I think I want to do this first. I said, then do it. You can always go back. You can always go back to it. And then she started doing it, and it always funny. Everybody was there. They said, yeah, everybody says they're gonna just do this for a little while, and then 40 years later, they're still
there's a lot of people who have long careers in that.
Yeah. So and that blessing, just having my youngest daughter be able to, just seeing, her leave the nest and start her life and do that. That was truly great. I was able to go to Colombia because of that. I flew over there for free, and that was one thing I really wanted to do. Going to Colombia was really, really cool because it's kind of uncharted ground for some of us. Like we I feel like the Mexico City scene was like birthed from the LA scene because they're so, especially right now, they're so much like we were like 10, 15 years ago. It's bustling. They kind of have the same attitude towards the music and the scene that we have. And I feel like that scene was really born out of that. And from Mexico City, I feel like the Colombian scene was born.
Yes, indeed.
So you have that. It's really cool to see that progression, that scene, and the people down there are just absolutely the nicest people. They welcome me, with open arms. I always had people that, to take care of me, to take us out, and it was just really, really nice. Going with the tenors there was very cool. It's really funny. Those guys, they live in Miami. Like most of the guys that, it's Clive, that he usually has other guys that come in and out that are from different things, but none of them speak Spanish. So every time they go to a Spanish country, I make sure I try to go with them because otherwise they would just.
And you're fluent.
No,
not
at all. But I can order us food and I can understand if we're in danger. So which is two very good things. And I speak enough to where I can get by.
Right.
So I'll usually go with them. I went with them also to Mexico City for the Upset show, which is another awesome highlight of last year. And then playing the Greg Lee show and just getting up there and doing that show was a special moment. I really came into that show wanting to raise the spirits, and I knew I kind of there was a part where and me getting that song was literally the day before. It was, I mean, we were at rehearsal, and because I fill in with Ocean 11 too. And play with them whenever they want me to. I've played pretty much everyone in their comeback shows so far. And we were sitting there, and Chuck Ferrara was supposed to do the show, and something came up. He couldn't do it, so he was supposed to do that song. And so we were all standing around, and we're like, okay, who's gonna do it? And I'm like, I'll do it. I'm like, it's in my vocal range. I'm like, and they go sing it. So 1, 2, 3, boom, and we played it and they go, it's yours, do it. That was it. And we played it one time.
Yeah.
On the way in, the expanders weren't even there. On the way in, Chris Brennan is standing by what I like to call his shaggin' wagon, which his Toyota camper.
Right.
And the expanders are standing outside it, and Devin's got a guitar in there, and they're rehearsing out there something. And they're like, Spanky, Spanky, as I'm walking past them. So I walk down, they go, all right. I go, let's do it. So we just stood on the street, did it one time, hit the stage, and that was it. Two, one rehearsal with the band, one rehearsal with the guys, and that was it. And it was funny, at rehearsal, me and Persephone were kind of doing some of Greg's dances because she was filling in on the background vocals. So I look over at Devin and I said, Devin, can you do some Greg Lee dances with me? He goes, no. And I'm like, ugh. And he's like, Spanky, I know how to stay in my lane. And I'm like, he's like, it's all you. So I was like, all right, it's gonna be me, So I went out there and when I started doing kind of the sway, back and forth, and then I came in and I got winded, dancing. Those guys are nuts, man. They go crazy for 2 hours. I don't know how they do it, but so I was trying to give it my other when the crowd recognized what I was doing. That was a really cool moment, and that's something I'll never forget.
Yeah, no, it was incredibly special, and Ocean 11 set was clearly definitely one of the highlights. Top form, and have the various guest players and singers as part of that set was amazing. We're soon going to be able to announce there's going to be a a special showing of some of the concert highlights from that night that Joe Nieves shot. So we'll soon be able to
nice.
share that. Yeah, which will be nice.
Very cool.
Another little way to raise funds for Greg Lee Memorial Fund. So yeah.
Nice.
I don't think we'll have another show like the Greg Lee show, tribute show in LA again. I hope it won't happen during my time.
Right.
Yeah,
That one was very moving and memorable.
Yeah, I remember Dave Fuentes, his memorial
Well,
show.
same location, same everything.
Same location. You know, it's funny because
And organized in part by Eric here again.
yes, and I had stepped away. I had kind of stepped away raising my kids. You know, your kids are young. It's very hard to get out to a lot of shows and be involved, work and so it's hard. And we used to try to always go to the big shows, the Hepcat shows, and Dave was a special person too, and he was always so kind to me. It was like if he saw me, he was like, Spanky, and I'd be like, oh, hold on, and he was hold on, and he'd go backstage, and he'd come up with a beer for me. And so it was like every time, and he was just so kind and such a nice guy. And when Jeremiah was with Hepcat, me and Dave got along really well because Jeremiah used to play with Hepcat for about three years.
Well, it's a perfect transition here. So Jeremiah, let's talk about your musical upbringing and your Jamaican music baptism.
Oh man, okay. I'll try to do it in 30 seconds.
No, you can take longer, but yes.
Okay, good. Yes, I mean, so Spank and I, we used to go to the shows back when we were teenagers. I think the first show we went to was Donkey Show or something.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of my entrance into like not really knowing what ska was and just trying to getting into it. Then I think the show I think we've spoken about this. They kind of was a complete milestone in redirection of like my focus in music and as far as reggae and ska was going to see the Aggrolites. I think it was 1990 at the Whiskey. And I remember listening to the Aggrolites a little bit on whatever LPs we get back then. We used to hang out at Culture Beat all the time down there, and try to get what vinyl we could. And, it's not like the kids today are so spoiled, dude. I mean, there's so many Aggrolite songs I hear on Spotify I didn't even know existed. I mean, back then I had like 4 compilations.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I listen to the old ska and you hear the old recordings, but when I saw them live, it absolutely blew my mind as what like the sound could be in that style.
And in '90, it was Tommy Lester Rowland.
Bubbles Cameron was playing with them. Lloyd Nibbs, Lloyd Brevet.
Not Jackie.
No. Jackie was, I think, either close to gone or gone by that time. But it was Ken. Ken was still Ken.
Right.
Ken was,
and Ken was Devon Harris on guitar.
Right.
Devon James. Yeah.
So that was kind of like my baptism into wanting to play Jamaican music. And shortly after that, I was at a show with Hepcat. Dave Hilliard was playing with Hepcat at the time, and he was leaving. And I talked to the guys, and a couple of weeks later I get a call and they said, "Man, you're on deck. Bring your saxophone. You're in Hepcat." So suddenly I went from like Hepcat being my favorite band in the world to being in my favorite band in the world. And that was kind of a cool thing because I mean, I don't know how people get the opportunity to actually be in their favorite band, So, but that was really cool. And it was an interesting time too, because it was right between the albums. So like the first album Out of Nowhere wasn't actually totally complete when I joined the band. So like there was a lot of overdub cleanups on a bunch of the songs, which I had to go into the studio and do. And then they had the last one song wasn't complete at all, which was Caravan. And I had to record that entire thing on tenor sax. So but the problem was because back then, I mean, is looking at Hepcat now, Hepcat's come a long way and they're a big name. But back then, they're big to me back then, but it was a local band and we were like trying to get Moon Records to pay attention to us. And Bucket was, so anyways.
Okay, so you're talking now around what year?
This is around 91. So because the like I said, shortly after right when I joined, we finished up the album. And it was so close to it being released that the labels had already been printed. And I remember when it came out and my name wasn't on the label, and Lino calls me and goes, dude, sorry. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. No. Anyways, it wasn't a big deal. But what was really special was I was with the band when all the writing of Scientific was being done. And that was really, really cool. And I remember at the funeral for Greg, I was talking to the guys, and because I had to learn the songs quick and jump, because they had a touring schedule at that time. So I had to learn the songs really fast. I was recording every single practice, and every single time I'd be hanging out, staying at Greg's house and recording the songs as they're being written. And I've got boxes of cassette tapes with all the hashing out of Hepcat through the Scientific album. And I keep telling them, I said, I want to digitize those because I think someone would get a kick out. At least we'd get a kick out of it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it'd be kind of cool. So I kept going with Hepcat for a couple of years. Then something came up. I was engaged. I thought I might get married, and I was getting some pressure from that side of the family. So I ended up kind of quitting Hepcat, telling him I couldn't go play shows because we were starting to play more and more out of town regularly in San Francisco every month. And, it was starting to get more and more intense. And so I ended up stepping back just to local shows. And then, and Efren was doing all the out of town shows. And then it just didn't, I said, it's not going to work. So, I left Hepcat, and then for about 6 months, I was kind of like, I don't know about this. And ended up, I didn't get married, which was, thank God, I kind of dodged that bullet. But I was then out of Hepcat. Spanky can whatever. But some guys hit me up who had started a band and were playing a couple backyards, and they hit me up and they're like, hey man, you used to play with Hepcat. I said, yeah. I didn't know, I'd never seen him at a show before. And they said, well, we got a band and Lewis just booked us a show, and can you come and play with us to get us going? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. Not sure who are you guys again? Like, send me a cassette tape. Well, it was Chuck and Ben and Brad Pate, and it was C-Spot.
Wow.
So they gave me the cassette tape of the one backyard party they had done. And I said, look, I just want to play like the old stuff, like, the classics, Jamaican ska stuff.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, that's what we're going to do. And so we did like a few practices, and then we came out and played the Hong Kong Cafe. And that was like a huge success. And then C-Spot kind of just took off. And so that was around 90, I don't know, 93, 92, 93, right. Something like that. So I played with C-Spot for a few years. And really by that time, I was kind of more and more going towards reggae. And I really wanted to play reggae. It was kind of different back then. Nowadays in the ska scene, at least the local ska scene, reggae is a big part of it, right? But back then it was like, reggae really wasn't a part of the ska scene. You're like in the ska scene or you're in the reggae scene, right? Sure. And it was like, and I'll make a point of this. I remember because the first time I met Junor was in, I think, 95. But I started playing with the Reggae Foundation out in Riverside with Pat Mitchell. Pat
Donovan.
Donovan was a singer.
And Spanky and I had actually met Donovan once or a couple of years earlier out of like a recycler ad in like 89 or something, when Donovan had first got here from Jamaica.
Wow.
So, but then when I started playing with Reggae Foundation, we were looking for a singer, and I'm like, dude, Donovan's good, man. He's got a good, like, Dennis Brown style. He's great. So I was playing with Pat and with Donovan. And I just started playing reggae more and more. And by that time, then Donovan and I had actually moved and got an apartment. We had a house, first an apartment, then we had a house out in Riverside. Then his brother came from Jamaica. And then my other friend from Jamaica moved into the house. So by the end of the time, we had Trevor Lawrence Jr. He used to be the percussionist for Burning Spear.
Yes, sir.
So he moved in.
Not so well, but I know him.
Right. He moved in, and then Zero was staying there. And then Donovan and Thunder, and it was like Pat, it was like this, big Jamaican house. And I lived in for about 6 or 7 years. And all we do was play reggae. We had the band. We were playing in that Donovan was just closing out his restaurant there in Pomona. You remember? Right. He still had the restaurant. And I got a good taste for Jamaican food because Tony lived there, and all he did was cook us fish.
And Donovan is a good chef.
Donovan's a great chef. His brother's great too. That's what I'm saying. Like Thunder was great, and it was a really great time. And I really got into doing a reggae. And I left C-Spot by that time. C-Spot was kind of falling apart anyways, but 96, they had kind of broken up for a few years.
Right. Because we met when you were in Reggae Foundation. When
Really?
When we had Reggae Nucleus and we were doing, you guys played the Beach Fest and Chili Cook-Off that we booked down there in Long Beach, Marina on the Marina Green. There were a couple different shows that Reggae Foundation played back then.
So that's what I think I maybe it's the same show. I don't remember, but I remember there was a show. I think it was 96. I've got some pictures from it. It was called the Reggae Old School Jam. I think Barbara
that was different.
Yeah. So I think Barbara had put that on. Man, if you had that show today, the lineup on that show.
Yeah.
Who was it? Kin Booth, Big Youth, Horace Andy. And it was crazy, like the lineup of that show, and sit out on the grass in front of the marina. And I remember we played there and we opened the show, and there was like nobody there. And I looked around. I remember 2 people from the scene were there. And I was like, man, they don't get it. Nowadays that would be totally different. Right. But I was like,
yes.
Then I just started listening, to Junor all the time. I remember I used to record Junyor's radio shows. So I'd have cassettes to play in my car and at home. I just listened to Junor all the time. He was broadcasting out of Claremont. Right. And I think we probably came to your station, Donovan, because at that time in 96, we went to Jamaica. And I stayed there for several weeks with Donovan, and we produced that first album that we did in Tough Gong, and that was a great experience because going with Donovan especially because we stayed in Greenwich Farm, right? We weren't. I was like, I got to stay in Greenwich Farm like the whole time, right? It's like Greenwich Farm. It's not the Sandals, you know what I mean? It's
right.
And it was funny when I went to Jamaica. I was there for several weeks, and I never saw the beach. Like I literally was just where I wanted to be, like in the music scene, like going from like Greenwich Farm, Independent City, going back over to being a Tough Gong all day long, and I don't know. I already felt I had a love for the music, but being in Jamaica, seeing the culture of how things go, seeing where the music comes from. Really connecting with all of that, just solidified my love for playing reggae. I continued to do that with came back to the States. You did the album. That's probably when I met you, Eric, when we released the album for Reggae Nucleus.
I think so, right? Yeah,
and then around 2000, 2001, I moved to San Diego because this time I did get married. So I moved to San Diego, and at that point I started playing with. I was playing keys at that point a lot with a band called Jaw Soldiers. Sean, he does a lot of promotions down in I don't know if he still does. I was the long dread dude. So I started playing with him, and we started just doing backup stuff. So I did the West Coast tours with Tippa Irie, Horace Andy, like artists that would come out that would book, and I would just play keys and we just back them up. And so I got to play with all those guys, and that was a great treat. And that was pretty much it. I stepped out of break. Yeah.
So backing those artists, was that your first kind of step into backing and working with the legends like that?
Yeah. Other than like opening for them, but actually like playing with them. And remember, this is like 2000, 2001. So like recording isn't like what it is today. Like anybody with a computer can record. So it was like, producing an album wasn't an option. So, getting to work with them and actually be in the band with them on stage, touring with them, that was great. Then my son came along about 2004, and that was kind of the end of me doing any music for about 10 years.
So let's go back I think must have been pre-Hepcat, a mutual friend of all of ours played, I believe if I'm not mistaken, with the two of you, DJ Killabeat Ernesto, Arce.
So
right,
that is a great story. How can I forget to mention that? So he was the trumpet player.
Let's show Ernesto some love. So listen.
I love Ernesto. Yeah. Ernesto knows I love him. So so Ernesto, So we met mutually, and he played trumpet. I lived in Corona at the time, and that's where rehearsal would be. He lived in La Puente. So I had to drive all the time, like on Saturday, to pick him up from La Puente, and then we'd come back in my house.
Yeah.
Wait,
then
so nothing's changed. No, I'm kidding.
and then I don't know, he's gonna kill me for this, but like then he started going out with my sister and like and
We're like, forget that guy.
yeah, no, I love Ernesto. That Ernesto loves it, dude. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he'd stay at my house all the time, and that was for several years. That's when we were teenagers. So every time I see him at a show, I got to give him a gigantic.
What was
hug.
the group? What was the group that you guys?
Stay Tuned was the name of the group.
Tuned. Yeah, so we had this band that started called Stay Tuned. It was our first.
You were part of it as well, Spanky?
Huh?
Were you a member of the band as well?
Yeah. We started with just a bunch of friends, and we were all kids. I mean, we were no good. Like
we were horrible.
I mean, horrible. It was terrible stuff. I mean, we were all like 16 years old. We literally like, here's what happened. We went to the Aggrolites concert. We came back and said, that's what we're doing. That is what we're going to do for the rest of our lives. We're going like I remember distinctly me and Jeremiah on the ride home. We were with our Jeremiah's brother-in-law now, Arthur, in a Volvo. It was like a 60s Volvo that had no brakes. It only had a handbrake.
Yeah, that's how we got to the show.
Our parents let us go at 16 years old with a guy whose brakes didn't work to Hollywood, to the Whiskey A Go-Go to see Scott Abels.
Right.
We're coming home, like every time that it stops, he's jerking the brake, the e-brake to stop the car, and we're in the back seat going, "That was the best thing that's ever happened ever!" Like, we are starting a ska band, we are playing traditional ska. Forget everything else. That is what we're doing, and that's what happened. And then we were friends with the Owens brothers, Ike and Aaron.
Yeah,
they were in the
band.
It was really funny. So the first band first started. I was on trumpet, Jeremiah was on sax, Ike was on trombone, and Aaron was on sax. We had 4 sax players, nothing else. So we would just sit here and play Aggrolite songs. Well, I sucked at trumpet, and so I thought, well, I'll play stand-up bass. So I bought a stand-up bass, and I sucked at that, even worse, but I played that.
You had disposable fun, man.
Play guitar. So Aaron, I mean, the Owens brothers, the famous Owens brothers that, I mean, by rest in peace to both of them. That was another tragic loss to our scene. Absolutely. I mean, Ike was already really good. And these guys were on it. I mean, we sucked. They were amazing. But I mean, Aaron literally went home. He said, I don't want to play saxophone anymore. I want to play guitar. He went home. He got his dad to buy him a Les Paul and a nice Fender Twin. And he comes back 2 weeks later and is the best guitar player I've ever heard. Wow. In 2 weeks.
Wow.
I mean, we were like, what are you talking about? Like, this is insane. Like, he's shredding. And we're like, you've been playing for 2 weeks. He goes, I've literally been playing every waking moment for the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I believe his grandfather or great grandfather was T-Bone Walker. So there was like some serious
in the blood
inheritance
going on there. And their brother Brandon is a like, I think he's a world-class bass player even to today. I think he's a touring bass player. So those guys were just on a talent far beyond, what we were. And then, that didn't happen. And then Ernesto came in, and then we would get these other guys from school, and we weren't good. Jeremiah was by far the best one of all of us. He learned to play pretty quickly, and I tried my best, and I tried out for Hepcat once and failed miserably on trumpet. And
so how do you know when you fail, when you go for auditioning?
When everyone looks at you like, what the hell was that? I think that might be the good indicator of not being
is it like a discipline on your part that you have?
No, just a total lack of talent. Total lack of talent. That's why I became a singer, because I'm not good on instruments. I can sing, like, music it's in my brain. I can sing you a horn line note for note. I could pluck it out. It's I can be in a room full of 20 musicians and tell you the guy that's out of tune. I have music in me. Getting it out of me, the only way it does, the best way it does, is by singing. Right. So
Yeah.
I became a singer. I honed that craft, and I by no means think I'm the greatest crooner or anything in the world, but I know how to entertain people.
There we go.
Yes, sir.
And
You have that down to
that's
a
always
science.
been my gift of is when I was C Spot's trumpet player. So when me and Jeremiah joined, he convinced him because he had already kind of had the gravitas of being the Hepcat sax player. So they were like, "Oh, the Hepcat guy's coming," and he's like, "Can you take my crappy cousin? If you got to take him if I'm going to play."
I don't think exactly went like that.
It was pretty much that. It was pretty much that.
deal.
I mean, they'll be gracious, but
Jeremiah being modest.
so I played with them for about 2 years, and
what time period was
it was
that?
funny because I'd always
What time
stand
period
next to
was that?
Chuck. That was like 93.
93.
Yeah, that was
In
about
fact,
93,
there's
yeah.
that one picture of them in the garage from that first rehearsal that I didn't play that show, the first Hong Kong show, but I took that picture of them standing in front of the garage with Jeremiah in there.
Right.
I took that picture because I was the only other one because I used to go to most of the I was like Hepcat's first roadie. I used to go when they would leave, I would go on the road and I would take care of everything, and probably just I just partied and thought I was helping, but I probably wasn't. But it was it seemed like a good excuse to go.
It was fun times, good times, man.
It was great. I mean, we have stories that we will not tell here, but there's some historic pictures and times had on the road with Hepcat in those early days. And then C Spot was great, and I was good enough to get by at that time. I had gotten better, and I worked really, really hard to be mediocre, and so it was good enough to get by for a while. And then C Spot started getting really, really good, and I and things happened, and I went my own way. But yeah, so.
Oh, yeah, that's some good history. Wait, Jeremiah, one more group, Celebration.
Yeah.
The
Celebration.
Were you in?
I don't think so. Who's Celebrations?
Maybe that's wrong information. All good. Let's move on.
Oh, okay. I'll take it.
So Spanky, when I met you, you were with a group, another group.
Kingston too?
Talking to me?
No, Spanky.
Oh,
Yeah. So I started a band called Kingston 10.
Right. Okay.
Kingston 10, and we had
that came about what time?
Before going to Kingston 10, there was a really cool band that me and Jeremiah started real early on with King Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
Who plays a lot around now. So
yeah,
it was King Arthur, and it was what was the guy's name, the guitar player, Jeremiah?
Lloyd,
and Lloyd was the original guitar player for Metallica.
Yeah, Lloyd Grant. He's
Lloyd
Jamaican.
Grant, he was a dread, and he was the original guitar player. And they left LA and went to San Francisco. And he's like, "You guys are never gonna make it. Why would you go to San Francisco? You're leaving LA." They went and go to San Francisco, got big, and yeah,
does he still play in Metallica?
He does. Yeah, he's still.
You can look him up.
The guy's unbelievable. He's an amazing guitar player.
Wow.
So we'd had him. We had I'd given King Arthur his name because we were going to be called King Arthur and the Knights, and we were doing ska and reggae, and we had met him through people, and then that didn't really make it. And I don't even know if we played a show. We did some rehearsals, and then like I said, Jeremiah kind of went off with more of the reggae, some of the more reggae crowd, and I kind of stuck with the ska thing, and then around 90, must have been like 96 or 97, I started Kingston 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I started that I was in Dana Point at that time, so I started with a bunch of local Dana Point guys, and we started playing shows, and then half of that band left, and Corey Kingston,
yes,
which is why where Corey and Spanky Kingston we were all at a rehearsal one day, and we were like, hey, we should all put like either a go-go or Kingston at the end of our name, and that'll be like our stage name. So I was Spanky Kingston, he was Corey Kingston. But so Corey had a band called the Scommodores. The Scommodores, and they were kind of third wavy traditionally. And I'd known Corey's dad since I was a kid. A lot of us met through church.
Okay.
And so Corey's band had just happened to lose half of his band. Well, the half he lost was the half that we had, and the half that we lost was that. So we combined them together, kept the Kingston 10 name, and then there was two girl singers that were my backup singers, and then me, and then Corey. There was a guy named Amador at Cherubel. He played keys, and we had another guy that played keys, and Jeff, I think, that kept playing for quite a while after that, and then that had a falling out probably around 98 that we'd had a falling out, and they kept going with it. That's another story, but
So you didn't play on the Phil Dillon show that Kingston.
No. When I left, then they brought in, I mean, the whole, like, basically a lot of the guys that ended up becoming, Aggrolites, like Jesse played guitar for a while. I think Brian Dixon played for a little while, and different guys. So
I think even Robert Sotelo played on that show.
Robert Sotelo played some. I mean, he played with a lot. So they went on and did a bunch of stuff after that and kept it going. And then I got married. So I was married, and when I got married, I'd married a woman with a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I was like instant dad. And then, like a year later, we had my daughter. So I had 3 kids. So the whole early 2000s, I was MIA with just, I would go to the big shows. I'd go to the Hepcat shows. I'd go to Scatolites, but those were pretty much it at the.
But I thought the band back somebody at one point.
Well, Kingston 10 did back Phyllis, but
they did that, right?
Yeah.
Or after did they back Pat Kelly?
They may have. I was totally.
Yeah.
Okay. And back then, when there was no, like, there's no way of keeping in touch. I mean, we didn't have we just fledgling the internet. It was like, we had AOL chat rooms, and we could barely eat, so it wasn't like today where you can really still just, you can leave and literally come in like you were never there. I've never gone and still know what's going on. It was like once you left and you didn't, go get that OC weekly update of where the next show was, you had no clue what was going on, so it was
true.
Yeah. So, and we were working, I was working 70 hours a week, taking care of, trying to get my family going and all that. So it was, there was just no time for it. But
the Spanky group that Junior and I talk about a lot, and Junior, you're always wowed by them when you see them, as the Rude Boys Out of Jail, right?
Yes.
To talk about how that came about.
So Rude Boys Out of Jail, I'm not sure who had the initial discussion. I think it was Brad Pate, and it was like Jason Lawless kind of had like the idea to start. I think maybe Marv Mack had a little bit to kind of come. I think he came up with the name, and then I get a phone call and say, "Hey, from Brad, hey, do you want to do Buster?" And we're doing High Rollers show, and I had never gone to one of those yet, and so this was like, what is this, 2010? 2010, 2011, something like that. Like it was a long time ago. Maybe a little later than that. Maybe 13. I don't know. But they called me and they said, "You want to do Buster?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do Buster." And so I just said, "Show up at the rehearsal studio." And so I get there, and I'd come kind of been back. I'd got Kingston a Go-Go going already by that point in 2010. And then they knew me from that. I knew Corey was from our original Kingston 10 stuff.
I think Jeff Govan was part of that, right?
Jeff Govan played bass, Wally, then Brad, and then some of the singers, were people like they got Aisha was singing with Kingston a Go-Go.
Oh, right.
So, and her dad,
King Arthur's daughter, was singing with you guys, right?
That's Aisha, as Arthur's daughter.
Right.
The funny part was I met her by putting an ad up. She came and tried out because I wanted a girl singer. She tried out, and she's like, "Oh, do you know my you may have heard my dad before, King Arthur?" And I'm like, "I gave your dad his name."
Same response I got from her.
Yeah. So she's like, "You gave my dad." I was like, "I gave your dad his name," and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy!" Like, so the somebody wanted us to play together over the years, and it's always funny because we just did some vocals for some tracks, coming up soon, and she just goes, Spanky, we always sing good together. We just get it. Like when you and her sing, it just there's no like nothing. It's just like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and we just know what we're supposed to be, And it's really cool to have that shorthand with somebody, and she just absolutely was amazing at doing Pauline.
Yes.
And I think I did a pretty good Buster. I
caught you guys a couple of times.
Yeah.
Additionally, I saw there was a fundraiser for her, and that was an amazing show.
Yeah,
Was that
I
2023?
missed
20, yeah, something like that. So,
that.
but she's doing good. I mean, she's still fighting. I mean, she had beat it. It came back a little bit. She got another surgery. I think she's in remission again. But she's fighting and she's doing better. She was able to come over and lay down some vocals again with us and do some stuff and yeah, that show was I mean, that band is just, it's one of those bands. We rehearse once, maybe twice, and just go up and just murder every time, and
right.
And it's one of those things that, like, if you do it too much, it loses its stuff, because a lot of people are like, oh, let's do it, like, and I'm, and I've tried to do it in other things because you can't get all those same guys together. So I've tried to do it, and it just doesn't have the magic that group has.
Yeah, and you don't want to dilute it.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't want to be known as the Buster guy. I'm, he's Buster, I'm Spanky. I love the man to death. He's super cool. We've opened for them before at House of Blues, and I said, oh, I'm in a band that this, that, and he's like, oh, that's great, mate. And he's really cool, and but I don't want to be known as the Buster guy. I want to be known as, I've been me for a long time, and
but that show was exceptionally good. First time I remember seeing Jeremiah on the keys. He told me he never played this kind of songs before, but
yeah,
I said, no, you'll be a singer. How can you not play these songs? You play
that's
so
a
well.
funny story.
I didn't know you were a professional musician.
Man, I tell you, like, I never played two-tone music before.
That's
a whole different beast, man.
Yeah.
It's like you're chasing like a race, man. It's like really crazy.
Right. Yeah.
It was really funny at we had the rehearsal.
There's no pocket to lay into. It's just like you're just running. I was that was a workout for me to hang with that band.
It was really funny. We had rehearsal and Jeremiah's doing, he's in his pocket, because he's pocket guy. I mean, he's one of the great bubblers I think on the planet, and I happen to be related to him. Okay. But he's playing, and I remember Corey stopped the song and he goes, Jeremiah, dude, we're not playing ska, dude. He's like, we're playing two-tone, and he's like, you gotta, kind of be on the front of it, like attacking it. And then since that, Jeremiah's like, okay. And then, and then he nailed it, of course, but it was funny because he's playing it the way it probably should be played, in the pocket and the feeling, but they had their own way.
The way it is.
They had their own way.
It's not right. It was a good lesson.
Yeah, it was a great show, and I mean, every song was a floor filler. Literally, without exception.
Well, next time, and hopefully there will be a next time. I need to see you guys perform. Right?
Yeah, we loved it. I mean, it's a tough band. It was funny when we just got asked to do High Rollers again, and I hit the group up, and I was like, nope, can't do it yet. So, but maybe come next year. We'll maybe talk about getting in, putting maybe a local show together, maybe doing something like that, and
maybe a Ska Mania, Junior.
We were supposed to go to Japan, and when we first were doing it, we had played maybe, I mean, in total that band's probably played 12 shows, like total.
And you turned on a trip to Japan?
We didn't turn on a trip to Japan. The tsunami did. The tsunami hit, and they ripped the contract up, and we're like, no, it was like, well, we're not going to Japan. And because C-Spot was doing really good at that time, and they had just gotten back from playing that huge, I think it was like the Fuji Festival or something like that with Tokyo Ska. And Tokyo Ska over there, they pull huge 40,000 people, so they had and just went and killed and just did a great job at that show. And so they were like, hey, we have this two-tone thing that people would go nuts for it over there, and we were going to do it. And then the tsunami hit, and then that was it. And
Wow.
it never came back. And that was really, we were really sad.
So for the
That
benefit
sucks.
of our viewers and listeners worldwide, what is so special about the LA scene?
Gemma, you want to start with that?
Oh man. Okay. I think the LA scene. All right, you want to hear my theory? Here it is.
Yes.
Here it goes. There's something special about the LA scene is that a lot of the people that became the main players in the popular bands here, like Hepcat, Aggrolites, C Spot even. They came from families or from environments or cultures that listened to like oldies R&B. They listened, in the case of C Spot, Chuck and Ben are Cuban, right? And we were heavily influenced by oldies music. I remember when I first joined Hepcat, Lino's like all we did was listen to the Dramatics in the car, right? It was like and we that's the influences we took our stuff from. So there's this kind of like first generation step that from the ska and the reggae stuff that's done in the Los Angeles ska scene that draws from the sources that the original guys in Jamaica were drawing from, right? Which was the 60s R&B and soul records and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think that other major cities that were kind of like the children of Kingston had that such strong influence. Like you take London and New York, and that's always been kind of my theory. Like you can really on the side, we're listening to soul records, right? And if we're reggae and soul records, if we're not playing a ska show, and that came through, I think, really strong a lot. And there really was, I think, a real dedication, to think the Hepcats, the biggest ska band in Los Angeles, and they're a fully, old Jamaican ska, and I hate the use the word old, but a Jamaican ska influenced band.
Right.
I don't think any other centers of, but there's any of the other centers, like major cities of centers where you think of like New York or London or anywhere else, the main band isn't a Jamaican ska band, right? And I think that says something to like the overall influence that's here.
Sure.
At least from what I see, because then that's kind of the scene that I'm in. So I think that's really special to me, as far as like I always think that the Jamaican ska connects more to reggae, right? And I'm a big reggae guy, and so I feel like I'd like to see those kind of blend over a little bit more. I've always wanted that since the 90s. I wish there was less of I wish there was more of a crossover between the ska scene and the reggae scene. I know at the El Rey I invited Tafari Waktis to come sit in with them. And he plays reggae shows. He plays the reggae scene, and it's like he was sitting. I remember we were playing maybe a sound check or something. He looks over at me and says, "This is amazing. It's like my grandmother's playlist." And I'm like, I said, "Isn't that amazing?" He says, "Man, and it's so good. You guys do it so good." I'm like,
yeah,
I really wish that like there was a little bit more crossover.
Yeah. We're Junior,
and believe me,
we're right
we
there.
have tried.
We're right there.
Junior's like the bridge. I believe that since like the 90s.
It's not working so well.
Junior is 100% the bridge, and back in the reggae nucleus days, and we tried it. There were shows where we had Mobtown and I Soul Jazz on the same.
I remember them. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And interestingly enough, when the few Jamaicans who attend this concert, it's just mind blowing.
Totally.
They don't know it exists.
Right.
And
it's a shame. That's a shame.
A couple of times at Las Globas, people came out, saw Derek Morgan and Derek Morgan, Ken Booth, but overall no support.
Right.
But those who came, man, it's a time of a life. It's for
real.
It's inexplainable.
Yeah.
Because people miss the horns, because they, especially people say 35, 40 and below, above.
Yeah.
They used to hear in the Scatterlights and the early rocksteady stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's an absence of horn. So now when they hear the Scatolites, remember that reaction that there was a young lady who saw Headcat for the first time.
Oh, this was when Hepcat played Reggae Sunsplash
Well,
at the Greek Theater.
Yeah, right. And she said, well, this is the best band.
Right.
But with the horns, she said,
Yeah.
no, it's better
Yeah.
than the rest of the band. And she's Jamaican. Hadn't
But
heard
I,
the
th- I
horns
think I
before,
think
right.
the audiences have to go both ways. I don't know, a few months back, the Wailing Souls played down in Malibu, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm there, so I'm there, and I didn't know anybody there, and
Yeah.
I didn't know. What I'm saying is I didn't know anybody from the scene there. Like,
Right.
nobody showed up, and I'm like, the Wailing Souls, like it's the Wailing Souls, you know. I mean, so I think it kind of goes both ways, but
For sure.
whatever. I mean.
To add on to kind of to what Jeremiah was saying about why our scene I think is different. I think that is absolutely one of the biggest factors is that we grew up on soul music.
Yeah.
And I mean my sister's 7 years older than me, so I mean I was listening to Untouchables and Madness and all that back in the first scene when the first round of two-tone stuff was coming out. So I was introduced to it really early on, and I think a lot of us were. And I think that a lot of people will point to that same Scatolite concert that me and Jeremiah went to. They will point to that was a pivotal moment in ska in Southern California that everyone didn't realize how. I mean, that show was to this day the most powerful ska show I've ever seen in my life. I mean, Lloyd Knibb was on the drums, and he just looked like he wanted to murder somebody.
Incredible.
I mean, he was just, and we're like. These old guys are just. I mean, they're seeing this place into this place of apoplectic ecstasy. You know what I mean? It was insane. I mean, I remember Bubbles Cameron, released his spit valve on my friend's head, and she's like, "Oh my god, that was so amazing!" And I was like, "It's like a Beatles moment." You know what I mean? I always say that I've opened for my Beatles. I've been front row for my Beatles. That's the one thing that's really cool about our scene is that we do have that access to our heroes, which is
Drummy, the timekeeper, Scatolites. He said it came from. He credits Dan Drummond. But every night that you're playing with Dan Drummond, he takes you somewhere else.
Wow.
Yeah, because if you come ordinary, mediocre show, mediocre appearance didn't work. Because Dan is up here waiting for each night. So every night. I've
heard that from a lot of people.
Not just him.
I've heard that from like other legends we talked to. Us always Don Drummond was on a different level than everybody else. Like
you got to meet him up there.
Super genius.
Yeah,
and then the fact that we did have a few small Jamaican places, like we did have Culture Beat where people would go to and be able to get some access to those records and buy those things, and be able to buy the Scatolite records and learn from them. And when you get in a group of LA ska guys, we're ska nerds. I mean, we literally sit around and we will pick apart every single piece of a song, and I'll be in a room sometimes. Corey will come by and just like we remember being in a room with Corey just talking about even Steel Pulse and like, oh, that part when it goes to this and it goes to that and this part, we talk about that Scotland. This is the perfect place to let that release go, and this is that and like. We really, really break down the music, and when the legends do come here and play with us, I've always heard, they're always kind of sitting there like, wait a second, like there's these guys from California, and they're playing the music because they'll go and they'll get called up in Miami or somewhere else, and they'll get a bunch of guys that are playing reggae, and they'll play ska, and they'll play the thing on the horns on the keys and stuff like that, and they just go like, it's cool, but that place it's almost like it's like karaoke, and but when they come with us, it's like you can just see that like this is what it was when we were in the studio. This is what it was when we were playing those shows in Jamaica.
Yeah, we got from several legends.
Yeah, we as LA musicians really understand this music,
including Ethiopians.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big one. That's my favorite right
There's
there.
a story I tell all the time. Alton was rehearsing at Chris Morris' house.
Mhm.
And he said, man, you
For the
guys are,
expanders.
yes,
Right.
he said, man, you guys are good. I don't need to sing. Just give me the intro and the outro. After 5 songs, he said, you guys got it down to a science. I saved my voice. Showtime tomorrow.
That's great.
That's
I
awesome.
remember that. I remember that. Yeah. So Spanky, on the legend front, and this is going to transition us into Brotheration records here too, but 2024 alone, Spanky, you and your group Kingston A Go-Go,
Mhm.
act obviously tenors. You talked about that. Vernon Maytone, right?
Mhm.
Earlier
Yep.
this year in March, right? Vernon Maytone
Yeah.
and Norma Frazier.
Yeah.
Why are working with the legends so important?
Well, like I said, for one, we get to work with our Beatles. We get to work with our the people that we idolize, the people that we looked at like like they're or our Elvis or our whatever, the guys that like we truly love and emulate. Just the fact to get to work with them, and then to see their face light up at what you're doing is like that's. I mean, there's really no greater feeling than that. That I mean, maybe the birth of my children. Then
right.
then having these legends vilify that, hey, what you're doing is awesome, and then like Norma, like she always, you're my band now, so she always try, if she plays, she'll try to get us, if she wants to get us on with her, or she'll want to do this, and we've been trying to, we'll try to book shows and things like that, but it's very hard. I mean, you guys know, I don't need to explain to you guys, it's very hard. I wish, we're unfortunately in kind of an ebb rather than a flow moment in the scene. I'm sure, as this music always does, it comes, something will pop. But we're living in a very weird world of music. With AI and it's everything that these kids have been groomed on this almost perfection in music, because they're all loops and they're all samples, and like it's I think that every generation goes one way or the other, and we're like I said, socially, we go back, everything has ebbs and flows, but the last like 20 years we've grown so much as a world, and that I don't know how the next 10 years is going to go. I don't know what it's going to provide. I've talked about the one, people are kind of scared of AI, and that it's going to be doing so many jobs that people aren't going to have work to do, because computers are going to be doing it, or robots or whatever, blah blah blah. And I just thought to myself, on the positive side of that, we could be entering into a new Renaissance era, where
Talking
we're
about
not
10 years.
stuck, we're not stuck doing the
talking about the
mundane
next
things of
Jamaican
life.
show.
Well, but on that front too,
Yeah.
in SoCal here, a lot of people are jaded, but it's also really tough to get people out, right? It's easier just to binge watch, right?
Because of
TV or
home
whatever.
entertainment, right?
Yeah.
SoCal's so spread out, right? To get from LA to Orange County, or Orange County to LA,
Yeah.
like it's much easier for people just to choose to stay home, right?
Well, and I think that one day I was talking to somebody, and it was a Derek Morgan show. Derek Morgan of all, I mean, he pulls but they said, "Oh, I've seen him before."
Mm-hmm. Which is a bad thing about people.
You've seen him before? What are you talking about? You've seen him before?
Mm-hmm.
I see him every time.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Every time.
Right.
That's the Europe. That's the
because I
attitude in
love this
Europe.
music.
That's the attitude in Europe.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the thing is like, I don't, it's, I love this music. I mean, that's why we do what we do. We love this music, and so what, you've seen him once, I want to see him 100 times.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a day when we won't have Derek Morgan.
Right. So at some point, it will be their last show here.
Yeah. And for me, a real teaching moment too is that show that you guys are talking about with Alton Ellis, and there was one, I think it was Leonard Dillon. And there was that show. That was like right smack dab when I was like raising my kids, and I saw that. I happened to see that show.
Oh, there were two.
Yeah, there was like two. There were the real early on shows, but I didn't get to them. and then Allison passed. And then I didn't get to the one, and then Leonard Dillon was supposed to come out.
No, he can.
And I think he lost his visa. Something happened with his visa.
That was after. Yeah, Tom was
Yeah,
bringing him to
that was a different show. And then he passed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and then, and same thing with Phyllis. Like Phyllis was, with that, and I was like, and then she passed, and it was like, those are, and those three. I mean, those are three of my favorite singers of all time. I didn't see them, and I'll never see them, and I regret.
Yeah.
Because they didn't come out, very early. I mean, and with the onset of the internet, like Jeremiah said, before, we would buy a compilation, so we knew Eric Monty Morris, we knew Laurel Aiken, we knew Prince Buster, we knew Derek Morgan,
Justin Hines,
and Justin Hines, and we had a couple more, Byron Lee, Scott, but that was it. I don't remember Earl Dunkley when I was a teenager.
Right.
No disrespect to Earl. I just one of my favorite singers, but I didn't know him.
Yeah.
I didn't know Larry Marshall. I didn't know, because we didn't have those records, and we didn't have any way to look.
Right.
Some of those were a little deep.
Look them up.
In part two, just before the Rocksteady era,
Yeah.
Studio One took, I guess, had a cease and desist letter they sent to Trojan.
Okay.
So that's why you didn't see a lot of those artists.
Yeah.
The Trojan that's the Duke Reed artists. They do well in California because their songs are on multiple compilation. The songs, the artists who were recorded for Studio One, you don't see very many because they were not on Trojan.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That is interesting.
Right.
Very interesting.
So the Studio One artists that I bring here, the draw is usually smaller than the Treasure Isle.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right. So guys, take us back. So you create Brotheration Records, right? Jeremiah flies home. Vernon flies home. Fast forward to the next step in Brotheration.
Well, I mean, we, even when Jeremiah, when he was back home, we talked every day. And I just encouraged him, and before that, like, hey, you have a talent. And he's the beauty with me and my cousin is that we each have our strengths. We each have things that we do really, really well that the other one doesn't. And so when we put it together, it's like a marriage. It's like it's like he handles a lot of the technical stuff. I'm not good at that. I'm not, there's just certain things I'm deficient in. I'm not good at reading music or knowing that stuff. He's unbelievable at that. I'm the talker. I'm the guy that puts the stuff out there, and I get people and network and all that stuff. And so and he does a lot of that too. But he's really great at the technical stuff and the notes of it, the nitty gritty stuff that gets down and putting the bands together and stuff like that. So we're a really great team, and and I just and so he started making music. He started making music a lot and doing stuff, and I was yeah, do it.
I could jump in on this real quick because like in 2015, the kind of the idea when I got back to LA, I started doing a lot of production work because COVID hit. But prior to that, in 2014, 2015, I started working with some major companies with music licensing, and that's primarily what I do. So with one major company, doing A&R primarily, doing placements, et cetera, music clearance. And so a lot of that, I got to work with a lot of artists on that front, as far as like the business side of things and working in the music business. I did come back to LA because I was offered a job here as a director of a music licensing company, which I still do today. So now I work for CSAC Music Group as a director of a music licensing company within CSAC.
Okay.
And saw like the opportunity to try to do production music. And when COVID hit, it was like it was kind of like Vernon and I were talking, and we're like, we had nothing kind of going on. I got back to LA in end of 2019, and then like in March of 2020, everything shuts down.
Yep.
So it's like, all right, so I'm sitting here, and I started recording best I could and talking to other people and saying, hey, how can we get to this? We had this project going on with Vernon and I were just trying to keep busy. And I was talking to Spanky and like, let's get some stuff, but no one could go anywhere. So no one could go and rehearse but it forced a lot of people that prior to COVID who were good players, good musicians, but they didn't have a way to record themselves. Like the only recording opportunity was like, how do we get everyone into a studio, pay for a studio, or come over here, whatever it was. But a lot of people became more independent in like recording themselves. And so during that time, I was like working with, my good old friend, Mike Cazares. I'm sure you know Mike Cazares, Jr. from Riverside.
Of course.
Right. And so we started like trying to get some songs together, working with Vernon. We did like, I don't know, like 25 songs, Vernon and I, in like 2020, just recording, and he was recording. And then I could say, hey, we can start producing stuff pretty quickly. And then then there's a bass player, and he's got a studio, so he can record himself. So we got this kind of like production system going where like, hey, we've got a song sketch. And this production line of music kind of started like developing out of just necessity and kind of as like a passion project at that time. And by the time COVID kind of lets up and getting into like, the last year here, we're like, hey, let's try to get, consistently releasing albums. Let's set a goal for ourselves. It will come under, Brotheration was like the idea here. Everyone's on board. We got a group of musicians. And it's not a solid group of musicians, like studio players, whoever. This guitar player is available, then this like this and this and that, but primarily it's myself, Mike Cazares, JB Vasquez on bass, Corey Horn on drums, Todd McLeod on drums, and Ray Danger from Ocean 11 as the other engineer and guitarist. And that's the kind of like the nucleus of the production team, and then various horn players. I play the sax, and then like there's other horn players bringing the brass. But with that kind of thing, we found out we can produce songs pretty quickly. If we've got an idea, we can do it. Just as an example, where we've gotten to now is like with Fire is I think a good example. Was that I talked to Colin. I asked Colin like, how'd you guys come up with this? Well, Kelly came over my house, wanted to chat, talked about like getting together, and I got my guitar out. We played a few songs we knew and just hammered something out one evening, posted it on Instagram. The next day I see it on Instagram, and I hit up Colin, what's up, man? That's a great song. You guys do Fire so good. He's like, oh yeah. I said, let's record it. A week later, we had everything done. The whole thing was then. Colin and Kelly was in my house, and the whole thing happened in about 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
From originally, and
wow.
and all the songs are going that way. We set a goal for ourselves at the beginning of the year to release a new song every 3 weeks, which is actually a lot of work. So
yes.
So it's like, because it goes from like, so every single time a song drops, we're already 1 week into the next song. Yeah. Right. So if we put a song out, we're already 1 week into like the initial recordings of the next thing. And it's like keeping things going. And with your guys' help, which we really appreciate, and everyone else, the work kept going, because I don't have a whole lot of time. I do a lot of marketing on different levels within the music industry, but for like, the kind of the niche that we're working in right now. I don't have a whole lot of time to reach out and to make the connections, to get people in and get the next project going on, because I'm kind of running the production of all the music and getting all the recordings and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So, it's still a side project, right? I have my day job. I have my day job, of course, but and the idea is that we can do it quickly with collaborations from everybody. Finding ways to build a catalog, build an audience that can be monetized, that everybody keeps all their rights. So we have small budgets. If everybody contributes, they get their stuff out, and we're really proud of things like the Ocean 11 singers putting out something, and they were thrilled with that. And you know, in the model that they were in, it's very difficult. Like, I don't know if you got other questions about Brotheration, but I think this is a really
that we just got the surface.
a
Because we
core
want to
kind
talk
of
about the lesser artists on the label, the lesser artists and the songs.
So I'll say in a quick minute, just like the core concept of Brotheration is that because I do work in the music industry in general with like major artists, and I work with some companies, and I see that and Spanky kind of alluded to this, the impact of AI, the impact of stock music, the impact of other things coming, is that agility as far as a label or an artist or a brand or whatever goes is the one of your most powerful tools right now. You've got to continually create. For bands, that's very difficult in most cases,
Of course.
because it's hard to get. Is the bass player got to pick up his kid from soccer this week? Is the horn player sick? You know what I'm saying?
Factors, yeah.
And so I often kind of related to like, you know, if Coxon had only worked with bands, we would never have the catalog of Jamaican music we had. But because he flexibly had musicians that were available and contributed and hit and focused on artists and grew this, he was able to produce a catalog that changed the world. Right now, I'm not trying to have like super pie in the sky aspirations, but I mean, as far as ambitiously speaking, as far as the label goes, is that we're here to contribute to anything you need. If you bring something, like the Ocean 11, the Persephone and the other singers. We want to do this song. Great, got it. We'll provide this. Colin and Kelly, you guys sound great on this. Boom, we got this thing over here. And if we keep doing that, I think that we can have first of all, a good recorded catalog of the LA talent, some good recorded catalog as far as like some the legends that are still recording and willing to record. I mean, the number one reason I record with legends is because they sound good. They sound great. You know what I'm saying? It's besides the respects part, which is totally there, obviously, is like they sound amazing. I love it. So anybody who sounds great and anybody who wants to do something, we want to work with, so we can continuously produce content. And so that's a big part of it.
But typically, what kind of arrangement you have with the singers? Would it be the international or legends or local?
You mean like financial arrangements?
Contract.
So we'll give like all the streaming royalties the singers can take, because there's not much there. If there's any kind of like licensed placement of the song, which we haven't got any at this point right now. Oh wait, we did actually have one of my songs that was in the State Bicycle in the last few months. That Bob Marley bicycle driving around. That's a song I did. Wow. But then we work out like a percentage of like what they would take, whatever it is, 50%, 20%, 30%, whatever is like that. Because really, at least at where we're at right now, where we're not selling merchandise, we're not selling vinyl currently right now, even though we're looking for a partner who wanted like help, work with us and collaborating and bringing that aspect of delivery. Right now, we're trying to grow an audience, and with an audience, we have a demand, and then we have ability to supply that demand. Right. So,
who are the artists? Are you at liberty to say who are the artists you've recorded so far?
So far, let me look at my wall real quick.
Yeah, there we go.
Is that extensive? Is that extensive?
Right, let's start with the legend.
We've got Vernon Maytone and the Tenors and Norma Frazier. So those three. Right. We currently have a song that's in mastering right now. Let me step back from them. Local, we worked with Kingston A Go-Go, obviously, and Spanky and Aisha. Then we worked with Tony Green from the Debonaires. Yes. He did a great song. We recorded here. And then who else have we got?
Mike Azaris, he did a couple songs. He did Mr. Sun, Colin and Kelly.
Rufus is like a studio musician.
Ocean 11 girls. We just did that.
Rankin Levy. He's good.
Rod Spence is a
Colin has
legend.
solo.
Rod Spence from the Tenors. Yeah.
Yeah.
as
Well,
well.
Rod Spence, a lot of people don't know Rod, but he did a ton of backup work on a lot of the Rocksteady tunes.
Mhm.
In Studio One. Yeah.
What's studio?
I forget the name of
I know, like there was Ain't That Peculiar? Austin Faithful. He did a lot of backgrounds on Austin Faithful tracks. He has his own, I believe he has his own release. I want to say it might have been on Studio One, but I know he has one song released on there that's a nice song. But yeah, we met Rod through doing, going with the Tenors. And he's got two or three more songs that we're gonna release.
Those already done. And so
we like to spread things out so that we don't want to have what we found is that we're trying to especially in the scene, there's been the thing like you make a song, you make a 45, and then you wait 2 years and you make a song, and then you make a 45, and then or you've got two. So you're not getting that drop that you need in today's world. You have to have that drop
Right.
to penetrate, because you're living in the age of information, and people are constantly being bombarded with the new, what's the new. And so we said, we would love to do, like as Jeremy said, we would love to do print and vinyl. I mean, that would be great, and we would love to partner up with somebody, especially who's into that, and who could take on maybe that duty of getting certain ones printed or things like that. But what we want to do is have that drip of every 3 weeks we're hitting you with something. And so in the last 3 weeks we've been talking about the song for 2 weeks, and then we drop it, then we talk about the song for 2 weeks, and then we have other people sharing it and doing it, things like that. So there's this constant drip of brotheration, and then one of these songs they're going to pop, and it's someone's going to use it somewhere, or it's going to take off, and then it will drag a lot of the rest with it, which is what we've seen with
for sure.
Well, what I would recommend is that you guys work with the Collins song Fire Fire, that Bunny Wailer track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something interesting, Junior. You say that because I love rock steady with a heavy, like, kind of roots reggae influence, but with a kind of a more rock steady beat, like Fire Fire was done. And I love that sound. So that's definitely a direction we're going to go. We have one song that's an Ethiopian song that's already done. It's in mastering right now.
You mean when you say Ethiopian song, you mean the rhythm has been modernized?
Yes, it's we re-recorded. We refreshed an Ethiopian song.
It's a cover of Ethiopian song. Yeah.
Which one?
So,
yeah, you really want me to tell you, man? Come on now.
Well, in the words of Devin, he's an Ethiopian fanatic. The Ethiopians never made a bad song.
No, Leonard Dillon has been, and the first reggae album I ever bought was a Ethiopian's cassette tape at Tower Records, like when I was like 14.
Yeah.
And they continue to be, and I can explain to you my reasons. I can have a whole hour show on Leonard Dillon. I mean, I really think he's one of the most underrated influences on reggae music that you could, though I believe dancehall wouldn't exist. I can go on and on and on. I've got a whole thesis about it. But truly amazing. He where everyone else was trying to polish their patois, he just dropped it. He gave a language to reggae music, and which the rhythmic tone and cadence of patois gave it such a sound that he embraced in like 1965. You know what I mean? Like way before anybody. And his songs are amazing. So the song that's going to drop is Locust.
Right. Studio One. Okay.
Right. Which is a tough, because Locust wasn't recorded until 1980. That song was actually released in 1980.
You mean Studio One?
Locust, the song Locust.
I'm not sure. I have the album. I'm not sure. I have to go
Yeah,
and check.
it was. Yeah, that's when. Anyways, it's you can check it out. But there's another artist also, Capo, which is Joseph Benaya. He took a song that we recorded in 2021 that we had originally released with Vernon in 2021.
And you Brown.
And did a new version. And yeah, it was with Vernon, Maytone, and U Brown. Yeah, U Brown's another person that we released with in the last couple of years. He took the rhythm, he did a whole other song on top of it, and he wanted to add background singers and horns to it. So he took the whole, I'm working on it with him the last few months. He reproduced the whole thing with Dean Fraser.
Dean, you mean U Brown in Kingston City?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So the song you can see it's released Vernon Maytone and U Brown. Yeah, but the rhythm that we recorded here, we did a collaboration now with Joseph Benaya from the from Mighty Diamonds, and he's now finishing it up with Dean Fraser. I just talked to him last week, so it should be out here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. And then possibly, I don't want to go too far, but the idea is he'd like to come to shoot a music video for the song here in LA. And hopefully we can do something nice. Something
just to mention, I'd be remiss not to mention that Dean Fraser is doing some wonderful work. The award-winning Dean Fraser, wonderful.
Always, yeah.
Keeping roots and lovers rock alive.
Yeah.
And he's using live musicians by and
That's right. So it's his niece did the background vocals on this track. It was like his niece or something. That's what Capo said.
Right.
Some it was a female relative of his, but it was done down in Jamaica like about a month ago. So
the platform and outlet that you guys are given to the legends and the local talent is so great and obviously really needed. So
and at the rate you guys going, it must bear fruit.
I hope so. I mean, look, I would just put this out to anybody here locally or anywhere else. If you got a good song, let's do it. I mean, we can put it all together. We've got my graphic artist, a videographer, everybody here that can put everything into it, and let's do it. And
I think, as I love to say, the rightness of time. I think the time is right. You know, all the musicians practically who I've worked with always ask about recording in LA. They'd love to do recordings when they come.
Yeah. Wow.
I never got into.
You know which way to send them, Junior. You know which way to send them.
Well, yeah, all right. There you go.
I told you before, we'll give you those executive producer credits.
I have an idea. We'll talk offline for sure.
Okay, but yeah, that's something that we want to work with. That's what I said. That's the whole idea behind Brotheration was to make sure that we had. Sorry, my electric cat feeder just went off. That was sorry. Anyway, we want to we want to work with all these guys, and it's funny because getting Capo and getting I just said his name, Rod. That was through going to Columbia. We went to Columbia and we spent the week together, and we're sitting there the whole time riding around in taxis and other stuff, and I'm playing them our songs. I'm like, listen to the songs, listen. And Capo's like, do you have one bad song? And I'm like, I don't think so. And he's like, these are all amazing. They're great. And they're like, and they have the feeling behind them. And that was the one thing that I think that we, is this Jamaican music that if you tap in to the heartbeat of what each of those ska, rocksteady, and reggae genres were about. Like, ska music was built out of independence, right? It was built out of independence. It was about freedom. It was about celebration. Yeah. It was about, and then what came out of that, the happiness and the love and the things. So the ska tracks, and you feel those even in the instrumentals. You feel that angst and then also the celebration in the music, even without the words.
Yeah.
And so when we try to do ska songs, we want to. That's the heartbeat we draw off of. Is we're trying to draw off of that feeling from in the 60s when Jamaican did get its independence and it did get its stuff, and draw from that, because that was what was driving them right then. And then
And who is gonna
Rocksteady-
voice that locust? You have a singer? Or
Yeah.
you're just building rhythm now, or you have someone who like this?
Oh yeah. I think we have a couple of singers that did the backgrounds on it, so we're looking for a lead that's gonna put some on. If not, I mean, I work what one kind of plus of working in the music industry is I have access to a lot of people that are doing stuff, whether they're like soul singers or whether they're doing other things like this. And it's like, okay, I would prefer to do it with someone who's here, because when you do work with like sessions musicians, they're not going to be on the front side of things. Like you see how much like we put fire out, and then Colin can come down to the radio station. That means I don't have to come down to the radio station. That's great. I can stay home.
Yeah. The response was awesome.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that like when you work with people who are actually trying to build their own personal artist brand, that puts a legs on the project that working with the studio musician doesn't, and that's definitely
absolutely, and the fact that the women of Ocean 11 with Persephone and Tiffany and Mandy, Ocean, and you guys know this, but I mean, it's tough to find anything by Ocean 11 out there, unfortunately.
Right. And we actually, what's interesting is Mandy and Tiffany originally recorded the vocals to that song last year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, we actually had done the song a year ago.
Yeah.
And the problem was getting Persephone to sing it. And we didn't, and when Persephone laid the vocal tracks on it? After practice the night before the El Rey show.
Oh wow!
At the studio, we brought a laptop and we recorded Persephone, and then we released it like whatever it was, like a week later.
Right.
So
wow.
I mean, a lot of that is like we've got a laptop, rig, and I want to say it's like we do a hybrid studio, so it's like mostly analog stuff, using a lot of tape, which is tough. It's difficult. If it doesn't make the sound better, then we won't do it. We're not doing it just to say like, hey, we use
sure
here, you know what I mean? Because I'm
it's not a novelty. But there's reasons for it.
If it definitely does. It definitely doesn't make a sound, but we also want to keep things rolling as well. So
So having said that, so 2 points. One, the next Colin song, I'll pick the song.
You sound like Colin's manager, Junior. You've mentioned Colin like 10 times.
Executive producer, Junor Francis.
And
absolutely.
I love we're just about to reach our destination before we put the stopper on. So what's on your horizon for 2025?
Oh, just keep on hopefully keeping up the music, having some vinyl releases. We have our website that's kind of I work on the website also with a developer. It's kind of getting there. We're working on it. We're trying to get some more traffic there, some interesting information. Hopefully we can set up like places where each artist that works with us could have their own like little merch place where they could have connections to their own, make channels within there and try to cross promote. That's a lot. What we're trying to do is get as many people involved that can all add to the central thing, give a platform to them, provide them with music if they find it hard to make, and promote the entire thing. So hopefully vinyl, maybe a show with a number of artists that have recorded. That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Showcase in the Brotheration.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. One thing that we are working on too, and it's a challenging thing to do, is we've got our website up. Like Brotheration.com. It's Brotheration.com, right?
Challenging to put up the website.
So at Brotheration.com you can go, but what we want to have is we want to have our releases, but we also have a lot of rhythms. And we're trying to go back to that thing where we have, the old Jamaican style where we have rhythms where we've got the music, but there's no vocal to it. And so what can happen is like, guys will say, hey, I want to do stuff with you. Well, okay, do you have in mind a song? If you don't have in mind a song, go to the website,
rhythms.
Check the rhythms, write a song over the rhythms, which we have a couple people doing right now.
Sure.
Writing songs over the rhythms. If it turns out to be good, we'll record it. And if not, we'll say, hey, go back to the drawing board. Let's see until we get something that's good. But we've really been blessed. I mean, we keep putting these songs out, and like I know I'm biased, but I mean, I don't think we've launched a clunker yet. I mean, we've really done some really good stuff with diverse group
So
of people.
what's the criteria for picking a rhythm? Because you have a couple of hundred for just the Treasure Isle Studio one alone.
It's like Jeremiah's a prolific songwriter, and a lot of the time he spent in COVID, he was just writing rhythms and recording them, with stuff like that. And then, I said we'll arrange sessions with people. Like it kind of starts out with drums, right? So we have some sessions with people that we're doing, and then some stuff, and then, not to go deep into the music production, things like that, but you have certain things that you can use, certain drums you can use in 2 different tracks or 3 different tracks, or cut them up, and especially with today's technology. Yeah. So we can do that, and we'll have some similar drum tracks, but we'll have 2 or 3 songs on that drum track. So, and what we want to do is we want to get in various, especially, LA guys, because we have a lot of really good guys. There's some guys that we would like to work with.
Yeah.
And get them into the studio for a full day and just record drum tracks. And then from that, we've got, a year, like you said, we brought Corey in, we brought him in for some sessions, and we've had, a year and a half worth of releases off of the stuff that he's done.
And we recorded a lot of songs with him, a lot of songs
off of that stuff.
And
so
we haven't even started to we haven't even got through half of the ones.
Other guys are like, hey, I want to get on it, and we're like, just hold on, we haven't caught up on that stuff yet.
Yeah, we got a lot in the backlog.
So so then once we catch up on that stuff, then we'll bring the next guy through, and then the next guy through, and then also guys have their niche. Like Corey's great ska rocksteady drummer. Some guys are really good roots guys that have that really have that roots feel, because we do everything. We do roots, we got
a great rocksteady song that's in the mix. It's in mix right now. All the tracking has been done with it's a duet with Aisha and Tafari Wakas. It is a scorcher, man. You're gonna love it, Junior. I think you're gonna like it. It's
nice.
But it's good. It's got toasting and Aisha on it, and it's rock steady. So it's a killer, man. It's gonna be.
It's a really cool song.
Yeah, that's being mixed now.
But so we have a lot of canned rhythms that we can, if someone can write a song over one of the canned, or if they hear a song that we released with somebody else, we can easily, with today's technology, get rid of that vocals. You wrote something that's kind of what Joseph did, was he heard balance, and he's like, he just kept going, put it on, put it on, put it on, and I was just playing it over and over again, and in his head he's writing the song. He was writing the song, in Colombia while I'm playing it over and over again. Then he got home, he sketched it all out and got it on. And then we sent him our raw tracks, and he took them over to Dean's, and they added stuff over there, and then they send it back, and we do our thing to it, and then once we get done with it, then we'll release it. And that's just so. Like I said, if there's somebody who comes along and says, well, we don't have check our rhythms. If there's something that grabs you, if not, give us an idea. We can create it, or if we don't have a drum track that matches it, we'll bring the drummer in, and because we do that. We'll do sessions where we have songs that we want, and we'll also have stuff where we'll just record tempos and things like that, and kind of piece them together and make different songs. So we have the ability to do all of those things.
Well, guys,
I love that.
I'm inclined to believe the sky's the limit from what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Junior.
And you have some of the best musicians, ska, rocksteady, and reggae, especially early reggae musicians living right here in Southern California.
Indeed.
I'm glad you guys are taking advantage of the moment.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
That's the whole thing.
The promotion that you guys have given us, and getting the help of getting the word out there, really super appreciative. That's where we're at right now. Is we keep getting asked for vinyl, and like Spanky kind of alluded to this. He's like, hey, you got to press a vinyl. And it's like, I think that would slow us down right now. We got to keep the music rolling out. If we can work that out, we work that out, but we got to keep on creating the content, and the more that people hear about us, the more our audience grows. That helps. Then you guys did
So give me a ballpark figure how much it costs to put out a 45.
Oh, it depends on how many you get. I don't know.
Well, it kind of starts at I saw some things. It's a little they've got some deals and things like that, whatever. But it's gotten exponentially more expensive over the last 4 or 5 years, because there's been everything's got more expensive. But there's been a demand for vinyl, and so it's about $2,000, because with vinyl the
how many?
is the master for it's $2,000 for 250 copies.
That's it. Yeah.
So when you look at that from a business standpoint, if you're charging $10 for a 45, right, for a band,
yeah, 20.
Yeah, but then are you going to sell it for 20? I mean, because it kind of depends what it is, and if you overprice it, then you don't sell. And the one thing, and so if you're saying $10 and you do 250, you're making $500 off of all of that work to print all those. If you sell all of them, if you don't sell 250 copies, which is a lot, then you're negative. And the one thing that when we started doing this, there's been guys that have come before us and done great stuff, wonderful stuff. Like we love, I listen to their music all the time, and I'm not going to name any names or things like that, but I've talked to all of them. And what a lot of these guys have said is is it worth doing vinyl? And then the overwhelming answer is, well, I've got a garage full of vinyl.
Yeah.
So it's like,
vinyl would be, I want to make sure that like 250 are printed, and we can guarantee 1,000 people demand. I mean, I don't need vinyl in my house. I mean, extra vinyl. So right now we're building demand. That's what it is.
Let the demand dictate the songs that we put out. And if the song goes wild, absolutely we're going to put out, because we would be stupid not to, But if there are other options,
there are other options as well. I mean, where licensing our content to someone who does have a channels that could do that. I mean, those are also deals.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know and work with people who do that a lot. There's lots of options if we want to get.
And then additional
compilation.
Someone needs to take the reins on it. Is basically it.
The artist can also take the initiative and put out there
1,000,000%. And we would say, hey, dude, go for it and make the money, man. It's like I mean, of course, everyone would share whatever, for the licensing fee of the masters or whatever. But we'd figure that out. But they would make a profit off of it.
Yeah,
absolutely. The main point is that that every channel that can get something out and break even is done right. Nobody's here trying to like make money off the back of anybody else. No. And I think in that way, the entire thing can be successful.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
And that's a perfect way to end this. Gentlemen, any parting words? Anything else you want to share before we call it before we wrap this up?
Jeremiah, do you have anything?
Go ahead. I'll think of something.
Well, we said this, and we mean this from the bottom of our heart. You two gentlemen have helped us with beyond words can express, and we thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. And as this being a brotheration, you guys are our brothers in doing this and showing that you guys, every time we've asked, hey, can you promote it? Boom, it's done. It's done. Like now we don't even have to ask you. You just do it, and it's like, great, they're on board, and they believe in us, and they're doing this stuff. And Junior and you guys, the shows that you've gotten us, the connections you've gotten us. I think if you asked all the artists that we've ever backed, they would leave with with a good impression of professionalism, not only in the music that we're making behind them, but also, getting merch for them, getting things, trying to do, bring the business behind it. So it's not just it's a one-sided thing, or we're just going up there and doing that. And we've parlayed those backing opportunities that you've given us now into, songs. We dropped the Norma Fraser song.
Yes.
Just before we came on. I mean, talk about that's a burner, man. It's a burner.
Okay.
And one thing that we love doing is because some of these songs, and that's a really great song. It was recorded really well, but there's some stuff that even in certain times just weren't quite done. They didn't have the auto files to recreate them back, or that we have, and it's not great. So it's really great. We that's where we like to grab a song.
Yeah.
A perfect example of that was like Africa by Vernon. That song was a pet project of mine, because when we backed him, the horns, when you listen to the old track, the horns are like buried, and it's like that's the best part of the track.
Poor mixing.
It was buried. It was either poor mixing or, there's who knows? It could just, it just degraded, and then that's what we have, or whatever. But but and that was one of those songs that, like, I said, guys, we're doing this song, and I was the final sign off on it, and so we were, I mean, even Jeremiah was getting frustrated. It's like, come on, it's good enough. I'm like, it's not good enough. We got to do this. We got to get this guy. We got to, like, and finally I said, that's it. We got it. And really, that is one of the hardest things to do, is to let the song go.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because you want to tinker with it forever, and you can. And but that song, we nailed it. We got it. We released it, and I think it's one of my favorite tracks that we've done. Just because I feel like we were able to now get that power of the horns, the vibe of the song that I think everyone's always heard live, but they didn't necessarily get that, and it recorded at that time.
Well,
so that's stuff that we really like to do, is take a song like that we feel adding a refresh, but still holding the same spirit of the song. And I think that's something that's
essence of the original.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, but
that's
what we want to do. And thank you so much
Jeremiah.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll just say real quick, I really appreciate you guys, just everything Spanky said, and I want to just reach out to everybody who would like watch this and who sees us on there, is that every share, every like, every comment, it not only just helps us out to keep us rolling, because we're doing this, we're fueled by our passion right now, knowing that something good can come of it, long term. But not only does it keep us rolling, the artists that work with us, it means a lot to them as well, and they put a lot of effort in it as well. Kelly left his kids home and ran all the way to my house from where he was out in Calabasas, big drive, so he could record that track. It's on there. I would hope people will share, let everyone know what we're doing, like our stuff, follow us, and that's where we're going, and then we'll achieve some big things. But appreciate it.
All right, 2025. So let's put together a Brotheration showcase.
2025 and live.
We'll do it.
So
that's it. Love, scene.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, well, thanks to everyone,
gentlemen.
Thanks to you guys.
Yes,
happy
you guys,
Jeremiah.
Much blessings and love always.
Yeah, and we want to thank everyone for the ongoing support. Please subscribe to the podcast series and our YouTube channel. Follow us, right, at History of LA Ska on Instagram, and join our Facebook group.
And of course, this was produced by my good friend here, Eric Kohler.
And Junior, thank you for all that you do and for your friendship and love. And please do your part, celebrate and preserve the scene, everyone. And I'll leave you with this: come on out, put on your dancing shoes, and enjoy yourself. Much love and be well. Happy holidays, gentlemen. Thanks again, Jeremiah, Spanky, Junior. And until next time, everyone, be well. Take care.
Bye.
Bye now.